And I can share 100 more of these examples. Some of the most brilliant and newest ideas and youngest in terms of their innovation come from the continent. And our young people are making us extremely, extremely proud. And I must say, and I'm saying this with a sense of guilt, with little support. They're doing that with little support. So despite the situation, they're doing a fantastic job. I just mentioned the mobile money, and I can go on and on for so many apps, applications, use of technology everywhere across the continent, and that's thanks to the great ideas that are generated by these young people. It remains a challenge, of course, in terms of job creation particularly. So that's our role to also improve the conditions, especially infrastructure. You mentioned that in your introduction, you're absolutely right, which are infrastructure is the prerequisite for the well-being of our population. I hope I answered your question.
Commissioner, thank you very much. Let's take another brace of questions. Gentlemen over here. What's your question for the Commissioner?
Okay, so feeding off what we've just been saying in regards to the young people being having a big part to play in everything. What kind of
having a
big part to play in everything?
Yes.
In regards to like just moving forward, especially in the energy sector and things like that. What kind of movements does the African Union have to try and utilise that kind of pool that's there? So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Two things. As African Union, as an organization, and also in the work that we do. So as African Union, maybe you know that the African Union itself as an institution is currently undergoing a deep reform. Instigated and requested and led by Africans, not others. So we are reforming ourselves. And one of the things that we are putting in our reform is that to ensure that there is a clear quota for young people in higher positions, in all the positions. So we want to make sure that this is not, the old organization run by old people like me, that way. But
not so old.
So this is one. But in the work that we do, we also work with our member countries, all African countries, to develop like a pact-like convention for youth empowerment to also guarantee the same thing for young people in the governance of their own governments and countries. So to make sure that they are empowered in the governing systems of our countries, among so many other, of course, activities, especially here for young people. In addition, to education and empowerment capacity. We want education, but not just any education. The right education for our times to make sure that also the jobs that are created out of this education system. Sorry? Listen, this is a whole new other speech about whether staying in Africa or staying outside of Africa. I am proud of you whether you stay in Africa or outside Africa, as long as you are competing with the best and you are the best. You make us proud. Of course, ideally, I would love for all of you to return to the continent. I was a student here in the UK and I chose to return back to the continent. That's my choice. And I found my way and I found it very well and I was extremely happy and I would never ever would have done it any other way. But some would choose to stay outside not as workers, low-paid workers. I'm talking about competing to be the best in whatever you do. You still make us very good.
Commissioner, you're going to miss this, but a little bit later on. This sets us up very nicely for our big debate. It's an innovation for this year. Home or abroad, where is the most strategic place to make an impact in Africa? So it sets us up very nicely. That'll be from 4 till 5 o'clock. The hands are shooting up. We don't have a huge amount of time, so make your questions very, very tight. Lots of questions. So we've got some. Okay, so let's make them tight. Okay. You two initially.
Winnie Mureki, ex-alumni of Durham College here in Cambridge. I've had the opportunity of working extensively with multinationals here. But my key question, which probably echoes my colleague here, is what platforms are there as a representative of African Union for diaspora to make a difference, to have a voice, and indeed to bring back their hard-earned skills from this part of the world? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's a short answer for this one.
Okay, go.
I am here now.
I'll see you then.
Okay, so that's your answer.
The Commissioner is here. She is the platform. Okay.
Hi, Lisa Tajani. I'm a founder of Philanthropy, which is a philanthropy network in London. My day job is in technology, and the technology sector is seen as a place for growth within Africa, but technology is not just about the internet. Technology is about infrastructure and hardcore execution in really expensive areas. So what do you think the industrial plan for the technology sector in Africa should be? Because it's not just enough for us to create mobile apps and that kind of thing. What's the industrial plan? Because that really is important for our long-term future.
Thank you very much.
Technology is not just the internet, but the technology is mainstream now in all sectors. So we must also acknowledge that. And Revolution 4.0 is, every sector is affected. So what we're trying to do also is to make use of this technology in all the sectors that we are implementing. You just mentioned the physical infrastructure, the hard ones. It's true. So we are implementing 2 smart corridors. They go from east to south, southern Africa. We're adding 3 more corridors, smart corridors. Smart grids, someone was talking about it this week, smart grids again. Smart cities, we have like 10 smart cities across the continent. So the management of infrastructure through the technology also is very important to us. I do acknowledge it's not just the internet, even though we're still facing problems with the internet. We also must understand that connectivity is crucial. Connectivity to broadband, fast connectivity to internet is crucial also for development, especially that many of the services now are being delivered through the internet. So we do not wish for the technology to be yet another marginalizing factor.
Okay. Hands are going up all over the place. We haven't taken the question from here yet. So let's go on.
Good morning, Excellency. My name is Theodore Benedict. I run a development organization that works in 5 countries on the continent. First of all, I want to congratulate you for coming here and interviewing us. I'm one of the last son of a department that was at the OAU then. My dad used to work for the SCAS, was the director of the SCAS department, which I think now covers the bit that you're doing. So it's a very proud moment for me to see you here. My question is in relation to natural resources of Africa. Like, we've lost, for example, the great leader, controversial albeit Gaddafi, who used to contribute a lot to the OAU. When you have natural resources like the one in Libya and like the one that you see in the DRC being squandered like they are, and that can be transformational, not only for the country itself, but for the continent as a whole, isn't there the need to rethink how Africa is dealing with the natural resources of the continent, because they can transform the continent, I think?
Commissioner, before you answer that one, another one here.
A few months ago, I heard this proposal about Afro, which is about the common African currency, just like the euro. And this reminds me of the debates that are taking right now in Europe, and the debates that were taking place in the 1980s and 90s, right here in the UK and elsewhere in Europe, where people are saying, what about our own monetary policy? Will it be compromised in the name of collectiveness to a bureaucracy? Do you suspect the same?
Commissioner.
Her Excellency.
Yes. One of our speakers there.
My name is Mushari. I come from Zimbabwe. I'm so happy that in my country now we have got a 40-year-old young man running for presidency. But my main worry, number one, is Africa has not sorted out its governance around dictatorships. There seems to be no straight path to how we can clean up the mess, because it has happened over half a century. Values, ethics, and everything in terms of leadership compromise. Then my other worry is we see old leadership not letting go. How can we work as a continent around governance and leadership so that the older generation can be mentors, can be advisors, can be other people, rather than the AU and other institutions holding on to the old. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you. To the question regarding the Afro, I'm not an economist, and I cannot speak about the Afro in the presence of the two professors here present, who would be much better. I think they're the ones to answer your question, so forgive me if I am not going into the monetary policies and whether one African currency is the answer or not. I'd rather you keep this question in mind until the later sessions and maybe ask it to the people who are really rightfully have both the knowledge and experience to answer it. So forgive me for that. Regarding the question for natural resources, absolutely. Natural resources in Africa, I mean, Africa is extremely rich when it comes to natural resources. Every mobile you see is operating thanks to an African natural resource, lithium. I mean, the batteries in all these mobiles, and comes almost from just one single country. So that's how important our natural resources are. Unfortunately and sadly, they have been mismanaged over tens of years. And also the expectations sometimes do not match the actual exploitation. I mean, every time you see oil somewhere, anyway, two things have happened in recent years that give me hope. One, when I was at the African Development Bank, it was created the African Natural Resources Center because it was identified that the really two critical points or elements were critical to the use and good use of the natural resources. One of them at the negotiation step. You know, and of course, when I talk to you, I speak from I'm not a professor, so it's a very tangible experience, things that I've lived in the ground, in the field myself, and touched in my life and my work directly. When you go and negotiate a contract for natural resources, very often it's a foreign company, an African company that comes in to use it and exploit it. They come to you with a contingent of lawyers. Very, very, the biggest firms in the world. We are not equipped, we don't know how to deal with that. So when you look at the contracts, they're completely unfair. Completely unfair. So this is one area where we have a problem. That's now, luckily, there is now the African Leader Facility, whose work is to do that, to help our African leaders, public and private, they also hire their own, they hire the lawyers for them and go through these contracts, and and the sad part is many of our leaders still don't know that this facility exists, so we are trying to push that even further. So they look at the contract with our people, and the African Natural Resources Center looks into the technical content to make sure that at least the contract is fair. So this is one critical step. At the African Union, we also have the Natural Resources Center with the mining vision, trying also, since you were at the African Union, trying to implement the mining vision with the perspective and with the ambition to manage our natural resources in a good and fair way that reflects in the well-being of our population. The second critical point in natural resources management in our continent is management of the revenues. All kinds of things happen. Mismanagement out of just mismanagement. I don't know how to manage all these revenues. How to manage for the future, because the prices fluctuate. How to manage also the good days and the bad days. But there's also the corruption. And that it's not an accident, or not by just because we just doesn't take much, to know about the corruption in our countries, and that's why we chose this year to fight corruption, because we recognize also that corruption is a big issue on the continent, and we want to make sure that this ends.
It certainly is, Commissioner.
Sorry,
just to let people know about the anti-corruption practices and governance. We were talking about governance earlier. There'll be a special panel on that between 11:25 and 12:25 in the King's Library.
Thank you. To my sister, to the issue you mentioned about governance, how to make sure that the African Union is no longer there, that our own people are no longer there. My dear sister, this is already happening. People think of governance as the old ways. It's no longer. Governance happens on social media now. If for anybody who doesn't know, this is where public opinion is being formed, and this is rightly or wrongly. That's another story. But this is how powerful things are. Governments stay and governments leave because it happens on the social media. And if anything, it's going to be even stronger going forward. And who is leading the social media and this tech revolution? Mainly young people. We try just to catch up, but there's no way to do that. So let me assure you that the power of the internet, you were talking about the internet, it's not just about managing smartly our infrastructure. It's democratizing as well. It's this equalizing factor that technology allows us all to be equally informed and equally have a voice, making comments. Many are silly, some are insulting, but many are very good ones. So also look at this machine that you have in hand. It's a very, very powerful machine, the one that you're holding right now. and I can see, if things have happened in your own country, I'm sure you know how powerful a machine like this one was in making the change in our countries, in mine as well, 2011, and since then, I come originally from Egypt. Of course, it was all led on the internet. In Morocco, those of you are from Morocco, now there's a whole issue of economic boycott that happened on the internet. So it's a very powerful tool.
Right. Excellent. We could go on, but we cannot because we have to keep to the program. So please put your hands together for Her Excellency Dr. Amani, Abou-Zeid, African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure, Energy, ATC. Thank you very much for being so determined to be here. We're going to